Rudo was a slum dweller who often broke into the junkyards of rich people to steal usable things. However, when he gets framed for his foster father's murder and gets thrown into the pit where all the garbage of the world ends up, he is forced to fight gigantic monsters made of garbage to climb his way back up and get revenge. The world is divided into two parts. On one side, there is the pristine city with rich people living their best lives, and on the other side, there are the slums where people like him belong. The only constant is the pit, where all garbage ends up, including criminals. The rich people who live in the city casually throw away even slightly damaged items without hesitation. Like the woman who tells her daughter to throw away the puppy toy she just bought because it got damaged. She tells her that the toy will become ugly if they try to repair it, and they can just buy another one later. The girl has no problem with that, and her mother throws the puppy along with other garbage into the small garbage vent that leads it straight to a truck in an underground tunnel that leads to a giant trash collection site. However, the young Rudo is inside the trash collection site too, eyeing the stuff the trucks are carrying. He sneaks into the trash collection site and enters one of the rooms, but unfortunately, one guard hears some sound coming from the room, and he immediately checks inside to find someone rummaging through the garbage. The guard barges inside the room with his gun pointed at the trash thief Rudo, calling him a disgusting degenerate who is threatening the beauty of the city by hoarding trash. Rudo doesn't even respond to this because he hears those things every Tuesday. But then the guard sounds the alarm, calling for backup. Just as more guards arrive there, Rudo throws some garbage bags at them, and the clean freaks can't handle some raw eggs on their uniform, so they just watch him climb up the vent without doing anything. Rudo comes out of the vent near the exit, but the gate closes on his face, and just then, more guards come there.
Open fire! What a bunch of shitheads. Yeah, I'm the threat, assholes.
The next day, the news about the garbage raider spreads through the city, with the people blaming the slum dwellers for it. On the other side of the wall, the slum dwellers know exactly whom to blame because it is not the first time Rudo has entered the trash collection sites. They think that he will be caught one day, and most of them actually hope that he does. Rudo doesn't care about them as he sets his shop to sell the repaired goods he found. When his friend Chiwa arrives there to lash out at him, she asks him why the hell does he take such a big risk just to scavenge through the trash of the city people. And he replies that those rich bastards don't even care about throwing perfectly usable things. He feels sorry for the things they throw out, so he retrieves them. And since he can get some money by selling them, it is even better. Chiwa seems to understand him, but just then, 3 boys arrive there, clenching their noses as they say that someone reeks of garbage here. They tell Chiwa to stay away from Rudo, or she will smell like garbage too. They insult his thick black gloves that he has not washed since Obama was the president, and say that just one touch from them will give anyone rashes. One boy kicks the lantern Rudo just fixed, saying that no one will buy this garbage from him. He says that Rudo's hands are even creepier than the gloves, which is why he keeps them hidden. Rudo silently hears everything they say, but when one boy calls him the son of a murderer, he suddenly gets furious. The boys, however, don't stop, saying that the slum was made to imprison criminals and the people who live here now are their descendants. That is why they always try to keep their reputation clean, but Rudo's dad brought shame to them by becoming a murderer. Rudo can't tolerate the insults anymore, and he gives a death stare to the boys, who crap their pants and immediately run away, still cursing Rudo and saying that he will become a murderer like his dad one day. Rudo then quietly starts fixing the lantern again, and Chiwa tells him that she believes that he is a good person who will never turn out like his dad. He gets embarrassed on hearing that, but before he can thank her, Chiwa's attention goes to the puppy toy he got from the dump last night. Turns out, Rudo brought the puppy as a gift for her in the first place, but before he can give it to her and increase his risk score, Chiwa's mom comes there and takes her away. Rudo heads home after that, and finds his adoptive dad Regto waiting for him. Regto suddenly starts mimicking how nervous he was while trying to give the puppy to Chiwa, and Rudo turns red because he didn't spot him watching them. Regto tells him that they will talk about it later because first, they need to talk about Rudo's little trip to the junkyard. Regto tells him that he doesn't need to push himself so hard because they are not that broke. He thinks that Rudo feels a bit indebted to him because he adopted him after his biological dad was thrown into the pit for being a murderer. But Rudo says it is not like that. He tells Regto that he considers him family, and he is just trying to do his part. Recto simply tells him to be this honest with Chiwa too, and Rudo suddenly fumbles hard, injuring the gun wound from last night. Recto immediately starts giving him first aid and also changes the bandages around his hands while he is at it. As Rudo looks at his hands, he recalls how they have been injured for as long as he has known. People always judged him for that, and sometimes his wounds started hurting like hell out of nowhere. Then one day, Recto gave him the black gloves that magically suppressed the pain. After Recto is done tending to Rudo's wounds, he tells him to confess to Chiwa soon or someone else might swoop her away, and while the two of them are bantering about it, a creepy masked guy listens to everything from the streets. The next day, Rudo finally works up courage to tell his feelings to Chiwa, and heads towards her home with the puppy. But on the way, he comes across a scene that is not really rare in the slums. At the edge of the slums, there is the pit, where all garbage and serious criminals are thrown. Today, another criminal is being thrown into the pit and Rudo can only watch the execution, wondering what happens to the people inside the pit. Just then, Chiwa comes there, saying that it is quite a brutal sight, and Rudo panics because he was not ready to meet her yet. Chiwa suddenly starts talking about the executions and other stuff, and then she tells Rudo that she doesn't want him to get thrown into the pit. She says that there might be a lot of stuff that shouldn't be thrown out as garbage, but it is not a good enough reason to risk his life. Rudo replies that Recto said the same thing and Chiwa says that it is because Recto loves him too. Rudo takes a second to process that Chiwa said that Recto loves him too, and his brain with 2 MB RAM understands that Chiwa means that she loves him. She gets flustered on realizing that her words could be interpreted that way, but Rudo has already lost his mind. He falls on the ground, clutching his face, and then gives the puppy toy to Chiwa, saying that she might not want it because it came from the garbage, but he thought the puppy would be happier with her. To his utter delight, Chiwa accepts the toy, saying that she will cherish it, and Rudo is happier than he has ever been. He jumps and dances on his way back home, thinking that he needs to boast about it to Rudo immediately. On the way, he bumps into some guards who don't even bother with him, but he is curious about why they are in the slums. Anyway, Rudo reaches home and starts telling Rudo about what happened just as he opened the door. But he is left aghast when he sees Rudo on the ground with a creepy masked man on top of him. The masked man turns around to take one look at Rudo before plunging his knife deeper into Rudo's body. Rudo loses his cool on seeing this and charges at the masked man, but he gets hit so hard that he doesn't even realize when he got knocked out. By the time Rudo comes to his senses, the masked murderer has finished his job. He picks up a book from the floor and heads outside, briefly glancing at Rudo who tries following him, but then he hears Rudo's voice. Rudo is still alive somehow, and with his dying breath, he tells Rudo to run away. Rudo immediately goes next to him, promising that he will get help, but Rudo just tells him to run away and change this shit heap of a world into something better. With that, Rudo's body falls limp and Rudo can't process what is happening. Just then, the soldiers arrive there and they zap Rudo, believing him to be the murderer. They pin him to the ground as they tell him that he is being arrested for murder, and Rudo tells them that it was not him. The guards tell him that nothing he says matters anymore because they caught him red-handed. He keeps trying to tell them that the real murderer has just left the house and they can still catch him, but the guards don't even want to listen to him, so they just knock him out using the traditional method of punching him in the head. Soon, Rudo is taken to the scaffold to be executed for his crimes. Everyone from the slums is present there to witness him being thrown into the pit, and even some high-profile people from the main city are there. The judge tells Rudo that murder is one of the greatest crimes one can commit, and even though he killed a mere slum dweller, the punishment will not be reduced. He declares Rudo to be killed by throwing him into the pit, and the people start cheering on hearing this. Rudo still can't believe this is happening to him, and he wishes for just one person to believe that he is not a murderer. His eyes scan through the crowd, and they stop at Chiwa. Rudo yells at her, saying that he did not kill Rudo. He asks her to find the culprit, but she just says that she trusted him, but he was not worthy of that. She says that he was a murderer's son in the end and drops the toy as she turns his back on him. Her betrayal hurts Rudo more than anything else, and he snaps at the people calling him human filth who deserves to be thrown into the pit. He says that they are the real filth here because they are just blobs of meat without a brain or a will. He swears that he will send them all to hell, when suddenly he notices that the murderer is among the crowd as well. However, he gets no chance to tell anyone about it as he is thrown off the edge. Rudo feels like he has been falling forever, and at one point, he he loses consciousness. Luckily, all the garbage at the bottom of the pit breaks his landing, and when he wakes up, he is completely unharmed. He wonders what the hell is happening and how is he still alive, when the stench of the place suddenly hits him. Even the garbage thief is forced to block the smell, and then he notices the vast sea of garbage in front of him along with things that he doesn't recognize. Rudo wonders what the hell is this place when suddenly a giant shadow covers him. He turns around to see what is happening, and he can't believe his eyes when he sees a gigantic monster made out of garbage baring its fangs at him. Rudo's mind goes blank for a moment on seeing the monster, and he recalls how he always found it strange that everyone was so obsessed with sending garbage and human filth to the bottom of the pit. Yet no one ever cared about what actually happened to them below. They didn't even think about what else could be at the bottom, and that bothered him more than anything else. However, he quickly snaps out of it and starts running for his life as the gigantic monster starts approaching him. Things suddenly take a turn for worse as the monster roars loudly, and as a result, more monsters pop out from the garbage pile. They start chasing after Rudo, who runs as fast as he can, but it is all pointless because he soon gets trapped. He wonders what these monsters are and if they are really piles of junk that can move on their own. The monsters suddenly pounce on him, and he somehow dodges their attacks. He tries to run away but trips and falls right on top of a human skull, making him realize what his fate is going to be. Rudo curses at the bastards who threw him down to the hellish place, and just then, the heap of garbage he was standing on crumbles down. Rudo quickly finds himself at the bottom of a cliff that keeps him at a safe distance from the monsters, but there is another thing that is killing him. He realizes that the air of this place is literally poison, and if he breathes it for too long, his lungs will be torn apart. He covers his mouth and nose with his gloves, hoping to find a place to hide and recover. But then he suddenly realizes that a safe space might not even exist in this hell. He begins losing hope and suddenly pukes out blood, the sound of which attracts the monsters towards him again. Rudo falls on the ground, unable to move, and he almost accepts his fate when suddenly, Ricto's dying body pops up in his memories. A strange power suddenly surges through Rudo's hands, but he doesn't notice it. However, he feels his vision changing, and he starts seeing lights coming out from the garbage piles and from the iron pipe in front of him. Rudo crawls towards it, determined to stay alive because he has a reason to live. He grabs the iron pipe and gets up, declaring that he will return to the surface and get his revenge on the people who sent him here and on the bastard who killed his dad. Rage starts swelling up inside him, and the monsters sneak towards him using this chance. However, as one of them attacks him, Rudo simply hits it away with the iron pipe without even bothering to look at it. As a result of that attack, Akin flies away and hits the umbrella of another resident of the pit, who is surprised that someone who can fight against the monsters has arrived here. Meanwhile, Rudo has gone batshit crazy while fighting the monsters. He doesn't care about the poisonous air or the blood flowing down his nose as he keeps jumping around, and even getting slammed into the huge rocks at great speed doesn't seem to do much damage to him. A monster crushes the rock he was stuck on, burying him in rubble, but Rudo gets out and pulls a pole along with him. He swings it with full strength, dealing great damage to the monster, but then suddenly, another monster emerges from right underneath him. Rudo somehow jumps away from its jaws, but then the results of breathing in the poisonous air finally hit him. He begins spewing blood again, and the monsters use this chance to creep up on him. Luckily, his mysterious power rises once again, giving him the strength and madness to stand in his position even as two monsters attack him at the same time. Rudo comes out of the collision safely and uses a metal sheet to cut the skull of the first monster. He then attacks the second monster, slashing it in half and causing it to explode. He takes a break after that, but then another gigantic monster begins walking towards him. The moment Rudo sees it, he decides to run away and regain his strength, but the monster stomps on the ground with its full strength, releasing a shockwave that blows him away. However, as Rudo opens his eyes, he is shocked to see a guy wearing a creepy mask standing on top of him. He wonders who is this guy and where did he come from, but the man suddenly lifts him up and kicks him ahead. Rudo coughs up some blood and is about to throw hands when the guy suddenly puts a gas mask on his face, allowing him to breathe again. Rudo is really confused now, and he asks the man if he is a local. He wants to know about this place and the monsters here, but the masked man just asks him to be silent. Obviously, someone with a single-digit IQ can't understand orders, and Rudo keeps asking him about this place loudly. The masked man once again whispers at him to shut up. but Rudo tells him to speak more clearly. He asks if they are underground, and the masked man finally snaps at this. He forgets his own advice and yells at Rudo, telling him that they are not underground but above the surface, and it is the fault of the people living at the top for turning this place into a hellhole. He then tells Rudo that the giant monsters made out of trash are attracted to sound, and thanks to him not shutting up, they have noticed him now. The masked man says that the trash beasts can't be defeated with ordinary weapons, so their best choice was to sneak away silently, but they can't do it anymore. One monster reaches behind them by this point, and the masked man decides to deal with it before anything else. A golden energy suddenly emerges from his arm and coats his umbrella, transforming it into a weapon. The monster attacks them, but the masked man simply swirls his umbrella in its face, using it like a handheld blender to grind away the monster. The monster's pieces fall away everywhere, and they suddenly turn to dust. Rudo was already surprised by the strange power-up, but now he is even more curious about the monsters not regenerating after being hit by this attack. Just then, a huge horde of monsters arrive there, but the masked guy is confident that he can deal with all of them. He dashes towards the monsters, quickly blowing them up with his bladed umbrella, and then jumps up, using his umbrella as a parachute. Rudo wonders if this is some kind of technology the people in the pit use, or if it is unique to the masked man. Meanwhile, the masked man drifts in front of the last remaining giant monster, who suddenly spits a ball of acid at him. He blocks and scatters the acid with his umbrella, and the acid violently explodes on hitting the garbage patches. The masked man then uses the monster's head as a base to jump up higher, and after that, he pours more energy into his umbrella, increasing its size and destructive power. He dives towards the monster's head with that, cutting through him and the ground as well. Once that is done, the masked man heads back to Rudo, who asks him who the hell is he. The man removes his mask and introduces himself as Injin, a simple cleaner, but the very next moment, the sick air makes him regret his decision. Injin curses Rudo for making him take off his mask, and then suddenly, Rudo collapses. While he is unconscious, he dreams of an incident from his childhood. He had returned home after being bullied and pushed into the sewer by the other boys because he told them that objects are alive, and they didn't believe him. Recto asked him if he hit the boys back, and Rudo replied that he did not. He asked Recto if he was really telling the truth when he said that when an object is treated with care, a soul will eventually come to inhabit it. As Recto cleaned him up, he said that the story was just an old legend to make people cherish what they had, but personally, he liked to believe that everything had a soul. Rudo grew increasingly curious on hearing this and asked if the things around their house had a soul too, including his gloves. Recto just replied that if he treats them with care, they would have a soul one day. Rudo suddenly wakes up from his dream with that, and he finds himself chained and being dragged by Injin. Rudo curses him, telling him to let him free, but Injin says that he is just taking him to a safe place. Rudo doesn't care about that anymore because he wants to go back up to get his revenge, but those words make Injin stop in his tracks. He tells Rudo that it is impossible to climb back up to the place they call the sphere, which is basically in the sky, and it is constantly on the move. He then resumes dragging Rudo, saying that getting back is not possible now, and he should just calm down and accept his new situation. Rudo, however, refuses to give up, saying that he will get back to the sphere at all costs. He believes that Injin knows the way to go there but is hiding it from him, and he yells at him to tell him everything he knows or he will keep shouting till more monsters come. Injin is pissed at this, and he tells Rudo that he will tell him exactly what kind of place this is. He starts dragging him even more carelessly and finally takes him to a clearing in a canyon that is 100 times cleaner than the surroundings. Injin drops him there, telling him to have fun as he quickly leaves. Rudo curses him to at least free him, but Injin goes away without saying anything. Suddenly, a bunch of men wearing gas masks come out of the trucks, and they start heading towards Rudo. He wonders if they are the inhabitants of this place, and the people are also incredibly curious about him. Judging by his clothes, they wonder if he is from the sphere, and they creepily approach him with their questions. Rudo nervously tells them that he fell from the sphere, and the men suddenly throw away their masks. They seem really excited to see a living sphere dweller with them because they always found their dead bodies in the past. They get overly curious and begin examining Rudo's face, and he immediately moves away from them. The men tell him that they mean no harm and start untying him, which makes him think that they are much nicer than Injin. However, it all turns out to be a trap, and soon, Rudo finds himself chained really tightly inside a truck. He wonders what the hell is happening, but the men outside talk about how lucky they are to get a real living spherite because he will definitely fetch an enormous amount. They talk about how people pay crazy money for the body parts and clothes of the dead spherites, and finding a rare one will drive them crazy. The leader of the men then tells Rudo that the reason people are willing to pay such a huge amount of money for spherites is because they hate them. He curses the people living in the sphere who dumped all their waste on the planet until it piled up, poisoning the air and creating monsters. The people who died from the monsters or lost their homes because of the toxic air and land bear deep grudges against the spherites, and once they find a live one, they will go medieval on his. The leader then decides to feed Rudo something to welcome him to the surface, and that food is rotten meat and other spoiled things. He keeps mocking him throughout, saying that spherites like him don't even touch garbage, so he can't possibly digest food like this. However, as he tries to shove a piece of meat down Rudo's throat, the man makes the biggest mistake of his life. Rudo suddenly bites his fingers, tearing out the flesh from them and chewing it up along with the rotten stuff he ate earlier. He then starts eating the rotten food, saying that it is not trash because it is still perfectly edible. The man crap their pants because they have never seen a beast like this, but that is just the beginning. Rudo is mad at everyone for labeling things as trash and unworthy of being used, and he is no longer going to take it sitting down. His power manifests again, and he breaks free from his chains. He jumps outside and releases his energy onto the ground, lifting the objects around him. Injin watches everything from a distance, and he is really pleased to see that Rudo turned out to be a giver, a person who can give life to objects and draw out their power, just like him. Meanwhile, on the ground, Rudo thinks about Rigto's words that treating objects with care makes them alive, and they treat their humans with care too. He throws away his mask and grabs the chain used to tie him, infusing it with life and turning it into a weapon. The men rush towards him, but Rudo just hits the ground with his chain, forcing them to retreat. Their leader tells them to target the chain because a giver is useless without their object, and his men succeed in disarming Rudo quickly. However, to their utter shock and Injin's utter delight, Rudo picks up a tire and turns it into a weapon too, which is too rare even for powerful givers. He makes quick work of the men and then moves on to their leader, who keeps cursing him while crapping his pants. But just as Rudo is about to strike him, Injin comes there and stops him. Rudo suddenly snaps out of his frenzy, and his power dies down. The tire he was using suddenly turns to dust, and Rudo gets a nosebleed as he tries to figure out exactly what he did just now. Injin says that using his power so recklessly is bound to tire his body. He then apologizes for testing Rudo like this, but he wanted to make sure of his powers. He promises to tell him everything about this world and his powers, but in exchange, he wants Rudo to join the cleaners because they need people like him to fight the monsters. However, that is a bit too much for Rudo to process, and he says that he doesn't want to join them. As it turns out, Injin doesn't know what the word no means, and he takes Rudo to a clinic to get treated while calling his friend that he found a genius and recruited him into the cleaners. Rudo is shocked to hear that because he never agreed to join him. He says that he needs to go back to the sphere immediately, but the creepy doctor with eyes wider than the holes on a pool table tells him to stop talking. He screams at Rudo for going out into the no man's land, because the air there is literally poison. He calls him an idiot sandwich for getting kidnapped on top of that, and tells him to thank Injin who rescued him from 2 horrible fates in one day. Rudo curses Injin in his mind, and then the doctor, who turns out to be an old woman and gets offended when Rudo calls him an old man. Once she is done with the treatment, she kicks Rudo and Injin out. Outside, Rudo thanks Injin for paying for his treatment, and tells him that he just needs information on how to get back. He says that he doesn't have any time to become a cleaner or whatever is it that he calls himself. But Injin replies that he hoped that being kidnapped would teach him how spherites are treated down here. He tells Rudo that if anyone finds out that he is from the sphere, he will regret being born, and moreover, he cannot find any information for free here. Injin then leads him to a desolate dystopian city, but it is a lot better than the filthy world outside. He even treats Rudo to a burger, and he gulps it down without holding back because he puked out all the rotten meat he ate a while back. He used to think that the bottom of the pit would be filled with nothing but garbage. But there are cities here with people living in them. He notices a girl going inside the store and starts staring at her, but then Injin decides to give him a lesson about the surface. He says that garbage isn't the only thing that builds up here, as emotions also build up in the form of an energy called anima. The trash beasts are one of the ways in which anima manifests itself, and though they mostly stick to the garbage dumps, they sometimes attack the cities as well. He says that normal weapons can't hurt the trash beasts because their cores are made of anima, but Rudo's gloves can. Rudo is surprised to hear this, and Injin tells him that when an object is treated with care for a long time, anima gathers inside it as well, and they call such objects vital instruments. Vital instruments can destroy the cores of trash beasts, but not everyone can draw out the power inside of them. Injin says that people like them who can draw out that power are called givers, and their organization, the Cleaners, is full of givers who exterminate trash beasts. Rudo asks Injin if he promises to tell him how to return to the sphere if he joins the Cleaners, and he replies that he has no clue about that. Rudo lashes out at him for deceiving him, and Injin reminds that he never said that he knew how to send him back. However, he claims that his boss is really wise, and he might be able to help Rudo in his quest to return home. Rudo is pissed because now he needs to meet Injin's boss before making a decision, but then Injin asks him about the gloves. Rudo tells him that his dad gave them to him, and they are the only thing to remember him by. Injin now understands why he cares so much about the worn-out gloves, and he tells Rudo to treat them with care because they have a strong soul in them. Rudo gets emotional because everyone else always mocked him for his gloves, but then Injin gets a message and decides to meet a work friend. Rudo suddenly gets up and thanks him for everything, and in return, Injin throws a pouch of money at him, telling him to be careful how he spends it. Rudo can't believe he is giving him money on top of everything he has already done for him, but Injin tells him that it is no big deal because he got the money by selling his clothes. That is how he was able to get him treated and fed, so he doesn't even need to thank him for it. Rudo goes ballistic on hearing this, but Injin tells him that he couldn't go around the city wearing clothes from the sphere anyway. He says that he is going to meet his trainer now, and tells him to wait here patiently. Rudo is really furious at him, but then he notices a cat taking his money and running away. He gives chase immediately but can't reach the cat. Luckily, he spots a crescent moon-shaped stick on the street, and immediately takes it with him, using it to stop the cat. Just as he manages to pin the cat down, the staff's owner comes there, and he is pissed at Rudo for trying to steal his precious staff. Rudo asks him what is precious about this stupid piece of wood, and the man gets even more angry at this. He quickly takes back his stick and then pushes Rudo away, telling him that he will pay for his crimes. Before that, the man starts getting freaky with his staff, and Rudo is utterly confused by that. Just then, he sees the symbol of Cleaners that was on Injin's umbrella, and realizes that the guy in front of him is also a cleaner. The guy activates the power of his staff and turns it into a weapon, attacking Rudo with it. However, he misses on purpose because Injin had already told him about Rudo. He then introduces himself as Zanka, the guy who will be in charge of his training on Injin's request. He says that he never thought he would have to teach a brat that he should not steal from others, and Rudo tells him that he was just borrowing the stick to get his money back. Zanka says that his father must have not raised him right, and Rudo gets really pissed because he can't tolerate anyone insulting Recto. However, as he thinks of Recto, he remembers that he once told him that if he wants someone to listen to him, he should take the first step back from a fight and try to understand how the other person feels. Following those words, Rudo thinks that Zanka has the right to be mad because took his treasure from him suddenly. He feels that he would be mad if someone took his gloves even by mistake and realizes that it was his fault. He apologizes to Zanka for it, and the man calms down equally fast as well. He tells Rudo that it is all good since he returned the staff, and he should have tried to react more calmly as well. Well, Rudo is completely bamboozled by the sudden change in his personality, and also because this is the first time he has managed to diffuse a stressful situation just by talking. He keeps thinking that Recto was right about more things than he thought, and then Zanka helps him back on his feet. He asks him about his vital instrument and what he can do with it. Rudo tells him that his vital instruments are probably his gloves, but he doesn't know about their ability yet. Zanka examines his gloves and remarks that they are really cool, but Rudo is still marveling at how different he seems now. He suddenly realizes that it must be because he is smiling now, and Recto always told him to smile if he wanted to make friends. Unfortunately, Rudo has never smiled before, and he would need a gym trainer to teach him how to use his face muscles properly. Even more unfortunately, he doesn't know that, and he makes his best effort to copy a human smile, but ends up giving the most horrifying expression Zanka has ever seen on a human face. He crashes out at Rudo again, asking what kind of face is he making. He asks him if he is mocking him with that face, and Rudo asks him why is he mad this time because this was the best smile he could give. Zanka tells him that even a blind guy could tell that it was not a smile, so Rudo decides to close his eyes and lips to make it appear more natural. He appears less creepy this time, but that is not enough to stop Zanka from being pissed. He thinks that Rudo is overconfident because Injin called him a genius, and now he is mocking him. He says that he can never achieve his goals if he keeps fooling around like this. But that was one line he should have not crossed. Rudo thinks about his goal to return to the sphere and change it as per Ricto's last wishes, and he tells Zanka that he is dead serious about them. He tells him to stop insulting him, and Zanka draws his weapon out again, saying that they are not going to get along well. Rudo agrees with him and pulls out a metal rod from the garbage bin nearby, awakening its power. Zanka is shocked to see him use a random object as his vital instrument, and he realizes why Injin called him a genius. However, he is still confident that if Rudo has just natural talent, he won't be able to beat a mediocre person like him who has worked hard to reach this level. Rudo doesn't even notice that the taunt was a distraction till Zanka's staff falls right in front of him, missing him by a couple of inches. He is forced to dodge and run away as Zanka goes on the offensive and quickly pins him to the ground. Zanka is satisfied with his victory, but then he notices something on his face. He wipes it off and then smells it out of curiosity, only to find that it is poop. He freaks out as he realizes that the metal rod that Rudo picked up was a part of a toilet plunger. He tries explaining what a plunger is, but Rudo is not in the mood to hear anything, and he begins swinging around the plunger that is still full of somebody's dinner. Zanka panics and does his best to dodge the flying all over the place, and eventually, he runs away from Rudo. Rudo doesn't understand why he is so scared now, but it works in his favor anyway, so he gives chase, terrorizing Zanka with the plunger. After a while of running down different alleys like old Tom and Jerry cartoons, Zanka escapes to the main street with Rudo close behind him. Suddenly, a cat trips Zanka, and he loses his balance, giving Rudo the chance to close the gap. He jumps up high, swinging the plunger with full strength at the petrified Zanka. He gets hit by a barrage of flying poop that knocks him out cold, and after a while, Injin arrives there to check up on them. He asks Rudo if he met his new teacher already, and he just points towards Zanka, who is lying on top of a garbage pile and spazzing out like crazy. Injin helps him get clean and gives him a ride, but he can't stop laughing about how Zanka got done in by poop. Rudo is also traumatized on learning the truth about the weapon he was swinging around on the streets, and then Injin tells him that Zanka is a spoiled kid, and he never expected someone to deal with him like this. Rudo can only stare at the mortified Zanka when he notices a pair of boots in the back seat of the car. Injin then tells Rudo that their first may have not been the best, but Zanka is going to be his teacher from now on. He praises him, saying that he is the most skilled trainer when it comes to handling vital instruments. Apparently, Zanka values Injin's words a lot, and he starts giggling on hearing that. Just then, Injin calls out to the woman named Rio in the back of the car, asking when did she come here. She wakes up from her beauty nap and replies that she was curious about the new guy. Rudo can only stare at him because she is quite pretty, and then Rio suddenly starts playing with his hair because they are quite unique, making him wonder if he accidentally came to heaven. While he is lost in his thoughts, Injin drives his car out of the city, leading them to the cleaners' headquarters situated in the middle of the wilderness. Injin drives past some destroyed cities and reaches a fortified tunnel passing through a huge rock wall. As they come out on the other side, everyone gets down from the car and Injin welcomes Rudo to the headquarters of the cleaners. Rudo is still in shock from Rio playing with his hair, and as he starts walking towards the building, a couple of flies start revolving around him. Inside the building, a tanned mommy receptionist is calmly reading a Playboy magazine, and Injin introduces her as Semu to Rudo. He says that Semu takes a look at everyone who joins them, but just as he is about to reveal her ability, she thrusts her fork at Rudo, killing both the flies in one hit. Rudo is dumbfounded at this, and then Semu welcomes him, saying that Injin told her everything about him, but she has to take a look at him personally to assess his potential. As she begins to focus on her glasses, Injin explains that they are her vital instruments that boost her vision, and if she focuses, she can see what a person is made of. This is news to Rudo, but he doesn't have much time to think about it as Semiyu awakens the power of her glasses and looks into his potential. She is shocked by what she sees and quickly turns off her ability. When Injin asks her what she saw, she tells him that Rudo is already athletic, so he doesn't need training in that matter. And he also has a good relationship with his vital instrument, though he needs some training to use it properly. Injin feels that there is more, and Semiyu says that Rudo has got poop on the back of his neck. He starts laughing on hearing this, and then decides to take Rudo to meet the boss, but he glances at Semiyu while going because he knows she is hiding something. On the way, Injin tells Rudo that there are about 100 cleaners in total, including combatants, guards, and supports. However, they are always scattered around because of their missions, so most of them are not at the headquarters. He tells Rudo that he should meet some of them and it won't take long, but just as he opens the door to the living room, he finds a bunch of cleaners there and immediately closes the door because they can always do the introductions later. They soon reach the boss's room, but before entering it, Injin tells Rudo to not start the conversation by asking how to get back to the sphere. He tells him that he needs to offer something in return for that information, and he should start by promising to work as a cleaner. He also tells him not to ask about the boss's vital instrument because no one knows what it is or what its power is. Rudo is now curious about the boss, but he finds the room empty. Just then, Semiyu arrives there and tells them that the boss is out on a mission and won't be returning for a few days. Rudo is confused by this, but Injin knows that is normal, and he tells him that he needs to wait a few days to meet the boss. Rudo is pissed at this and asks what is he supposed to do in the meantime, when Rio suddenly pops up there and tells him to come watch her work. She says that he can't become a cleaner until he gets approved by the boss, so the best he can do is tag along with her as a trainee. And that also works for her because she wants to know more about him. Rudo's brain stops working because he has never had this type of female attention in his life before, so he quietly follows her. They go to the strategy room where Semiyu explains that a small town situated near a polluted zone has asked for help because small trash beasts have been found nearby. Rudo is curious about the polluted zones and Semiyu learns that Injin didn't even explain the basics to him properly. She tells Rudo that the ground is divided into safe zones that support human life and the garbage-filled polluted zones where trash beasts live. The area Rudo landed was a no-man's land, which is an exceptionally dangerous polluted zone, and most people would die the moment they step foot there. She then gives Rudo a mask, telling him to wear it at all times when he goes to the polluted zones because without the mask, he could die because of the poisonous gases in less than 15 minutes. Later, Rudo joins Rio and her team on the mission, and she tells him to stay close to her at all times so he can learn the most. He still feels uneasy about that, but then he starts wondering how long was he in the no-man's zone and how much poison did he breathe in. His attention then goes to the garbage dump in front of them, and he wonders if the people in the sphere know that there are humans living at the bottom of the pit. However, neither of that matters, because the most important thing for Rudo is the garbage heap itself. To him, it is not just a garbage heap, but a treasure trove where he can find usable things and repair them without anyone scolding him for that. He then catches up with Rio and asks her who are the other guys with her. She replies that they are supporters, and though they don't have special powers like the combatants, they are really helpful in the missions. One of the supporters offers Rudo his hand for a handshake, and as he nervously takes it, the supporter squishes it with his full strength. Rio laughs at Rudo wriggles in pain, telling him that this guy has incredible grip strength and he can tear through a trash beast's outer shell with his bare hands. Rudo doesn't think he can handle this psycho bitch any longer, when one of the support alerts everyone that the trash beasts are coming. Rudo decides to watch it closely to learn as much as he can. Soon, a bunch of small goat-like trash beasts come out of the creepy trash forest, and Rudo panics, asking Rio how are they supposed to deal with these many enemies. She tells him to chill because they are just weak and slow trash beasts who can't even get past the wooden fence. Her words are proven true as the goat trash beasts attack the fence and fail to do any damage, but then suddenly, the second wave arrives there, and it has bigger and more ferocious trash beasts. They begin pushing the fence and breaking it, and Rudo panics, asking Rio what should they do now. She again tells Rudo that these beasts are just a little bit stronger than previous ones, and they are still perfectly fine for training a newbie. She says that they should just finish cleaning quickly and then return to the base to throw a party to welcome Rudo to the surface. He can't believe that she can be so laid back when she is constantly risking her life fighting the monsters, and Rio tells him that if he wants to survive on the ground, he needs to have a positive outlook towards the world. Rudo suddenly realizes that Jin is the same too, and he feels that this is what he has been lacking. He decides to be chill about everything as well when suddenly, a huge trash beast breaks through the barricading and even Rio panics on seeing it. Rudo turns to her for affirmation that everything is still good, but she tells him that this big beast is amazing because she has never seen anything so stylish. She says that it is not the best material to teach newbies, but she is going to have fun fighting it. She draws out her scissors, which are her vital instruments, and Rudo can only watch her dumbfounded. Rio then activates her scissors and throws them into the sky, where they become huge and even more sharp. She catches them with her leg and then dashes towards the horde of the monsters, chopping a bunch of them down with a kick from the scissors. Rudo can't even understand what is going on, and the support guy tells him that Rio's vital instrument is called the Ripper, and unlike normal people she wields it with her feet. Rudo realizes that everyone uses their vital instruments in their own way, when the handshake guy tells him to be more careful about his surroundings. Rudo notices it too late that a level 2 trash beast is about to attack him, but luckily, the supporter stops it with his bare hands, before crushing its head and throwing it to Rio, who simply cuts it with her scissors. She tells the supporters to send some more trash beasts towards her, and they obey, yeeting those heavy monsters at her like they don't weigh anything. By the time Rudo processes all this and learns that this is how the cleaners fight, Rio has cleaned up all the small fries and only the boss monster is left now. The supporters decide to disable any small trash beasts that can interfere in her fight and scatter, but then Rudo notices that one of the disabled beasts is awake, and it trips a supporter. It then jumps on him, and the man can't get out of its way in time. Luckily, Rudo arrives there to his rescue, and says that he will prove his worth here so that he can get the information he wants quickly. He turns the iron pipe in his hands into a weapon, and it transforms into a spiked barricade. Rudo is confused by this, but then he realizes that he forgot how to use his power because he has been doing it instinctively all this time. He doesn't understand how to deal with the situation, and the trash beast starts pushing down on him. Luckily, Rio arrives there just then and makes quick work of the trash beast, telling Rudo that he did a good thing by following his instinct to save others. The other supporter comes there too and thanks her before asking if she defeated the big one. Rio says that she cut it in 2 halves, but somehow it is still standing. She doesn't understand how it could survive her attack when she is sure that she hit its core, but she decides to chop it up into small parts so that it becomes useless. The supporters decide to log information about a new type of trash beast that is immune to vital instruments, and they leave to warn the nearby towns about it. On the other hand, Rio dashes towards the giant beast and Rudo is left hanging in the middle because no one is telling him what to do. Meanwhile, Rio jumps at the trash beast and lands on its face before jumping over to its head and chopping off all the pipes protruding out of there. After turning the monster bald, she notices something glowing under her feet, and she realizes that it must be the core that the monster is trying to hide. However, before she can attack that, the trash beast starts moving violently enough to throw her away. It then reattaches the pipes back to its head and starts banging its jaw on the ground with great intensity. Rio still hangs on to it somehow, but the beast suddenly directs his attack towards Rudo and the supporters. Rudo just freezes as he sees the metal pipes coming towards him, but luckily, he doesn't take a direct hit. The ground under him is destroyed by the attacks, and as he falls, he begins to wonder what is he even doing. He thinks that he can't get revenge for Recto and the bastards in the sphere at this rate, and the darkness starts to consume. However, the support guy comes there to rescue him from falling into the hole, and also from giving in to despair. He carries Rudo on his shoulder, telling him that if he has a goal, he should not freeze and rather rush towards it while he can. He tells him to learn from the supporters who don't have any power, but they still keep doing their job. Just then, Rudo notices Rio chopping up the monster again, and judging by its screams, she realizes that she found its weak spot. She jumps high up and then drops down towards its head with great speed, piercing it with her scissor and tearing out its core. As she hits the ground and destroys the core, the monster suddenly turns to ash. The supporter immediately runs over to her, asking how did she defeat the trash beast, and she says that she stabbed something other than its core and it died. She holds a cardboard cutter in her hands, saying this was the thing powering the trash beast. and the support guy can't believe it because he realizes that the cutter is actually a vital instrument and it makes no sense at all for a trash beast to have one. On the other hand, the leader of the bandits who were planning to sell Rudo suddenly wakes up in a dimly lit room. He wonders where is he, when suddenly, the guy sitting on the sofa in front of him asks him the location of the kid from the sphere he mentioned in his sleep. Back in the cleaner's headquarters, Rio throws a party welcome for Rudo and soon, Zanka arrives there as well, still drowsy from his long afternoon nap. He asks Rio what is going on, and she tells him that they are throwing a party to welcome Rudo to the ground, but he is sitting quietly with his head down in a corner. Zanka asks why that cheeky bastard is looking so depressed, and Rio says that ever since his vital instrument bailed on him mid-fight, he has been gloomy and sad. Zanka thinks that's sad, but he moves on to the news about Rio facing a strange trash beast. She affirms, telling him that instead of having a core made of anima, the trash beast had a vital instrument as its core, and nothing could have prepared them for such a discovery. Rio says that since she couldn't do anything about it anyway, she decided to leave it to people above her pay grade and came back to throw a party instead. Meanwhile, Rudo is still sulking when the leader of the support team arrives there to talk with him. He introduces himself as Gris, and then tells Rudo that he did great yesterday. Rudo thinks that he did nothing at all, but Gris reminds him that he protected another supporter from a trash beast. Rudo says that even though he managed that, he couldn't use his power properly after that, and needed to be rescued by Gris and Rio. He feels frustrated because even on the sphere, he used to lose control all the time, and Recto had to cover his ass later. Rudo feels that he is a total failure who can never live up to anyone's expectations, but then Gris suddenly thanks him, disrupting his chain of thoughts completely. He says that most newbie cleaners think of supporters as losers without real powers, but Rudo was different. Gris then talks about Follow, the guy whom Rudo saved. He joined the cleaners to become a combatant, but since he doesn't have a vital instrument right now, he is working as a supporter while treasuring an object, hoping it can become his weapon someday. Gris tells Rudo that he shouldn't think too much about getting stronger or fulfilling the expectations of others. He asks him what is the thing that he always wanted, even before things got bad in the sphere. Rudo starts thinking deeply about it, and Gris tells him that if he can find the thing that awakened the fire within his soul in the first place, he would be able to find his way. He then pats Rudo's head, telling him to believe in himself. Rudo gets emotional at this, but just then, Injin comes there and leans on him, spoiling the emotional mood. He asks Rudo why is he not eating anything, and then Rio and Zanka also come there. Everyone tells Rudo to join the party because he is the star of tonight, and also because the food won't last long at this rate. Rudo is deeply moved on seeing that everyone cares about him, and he follows them. As they are all eating, a guy suddenly plays some music and picks up some cans of paint. He starts spraying the wall, and Injin tells him to watch the guy called Gob carefully, because he does what he wants without caring for others. While Gob draws his art piece on the wall, everyone else complains, telling him to wait till they are done eating, but as told earlier, he doesn't give a shit. Meanwhile, on the ground floor, Mommy Semiu gets back to her desk, and she can predict that a call is going to come any minute. She picks up the phone the same second it starts ringing, and receives a request. She summons Zanka and a team of supporters to fulfill that request. But Zanka asks her what is Rudo doing with the group when he has not been officially admitted to the cleaners. Semiu tells him that the request they received is relevant to Rudo. She explains that the request is from a merchant who got attacked by a trash beast as he was crossing a polluted zone. He escaped with his life, but his precious cargo was stolen, and now he wants them to defeat the trash beast and retrieve the cargo. This is the part where Rudo is needed, because the cargo is a living spherite. Everyone is shocked to hear this, and Semiu says that it is really rare to see two living spherites on the surface at the same time, which means something odd is going on, and she wants Rudo to take a loot at it himself. Rudo starts thinking about it, and Gris tells him to control his feelings before making a decision. Rudo knows that he can't use his power properly, and that can make him a burden to the team, but he still wants to see the other spherite because it may give him a hint to return to the surface. He decides to tag along, and Zanka is not really pleased by this, but Semiu knows exactly how to get him to agree to everything. She says that this quest was initially meant for Injin, but he is busy with another request at the moment, and he said that he trusts Zanka to do it. That is enough to turn on the #1 Injin fanboy, and he cheerfully leads his group through the polluted zone. On the way, Rudo asks Gris if he doesn't carry a weapon, and he replies that he has a knife, but he trusts his hands more than that. One of the supporters tells Rudo that Gris actually has a talisman he prays a lot to, and he gets embarrassed that his secret is out. Eventually, he decides to show the talisman to Rudo, saying that it is nothing special, but it gives him something to attach himself to. Just then, they notice a creepy guy standing behind them. The girl, whose pronouns are definitely Thathan, says that she is the merchant who hired them for this mission. Rudo suddenly starts asking her questions about the spherite, and the merchant replies that she was transporting her luggage when she accidentally ran into an unconscious spherite. She was worried about them, so she carried them away, but then the trash beast attacked them and kidnapped the spherite. Rudo confronts the merchant if she plans to sell the spherite, and she denies that allegation, telling him that she doesn't want to do that and she is just really curious about spherites. Zanka feels like this story is a pile of garbage like the one they are heading to. Trash beasts are known to attack humans on sight, and they don't go out of their way to kidnap one. He thinks that something is suspicious but decides to deal with it when the time arrives. The merchant then leads them to the building where the trash beast ran after kidnapping the spherite. Zanka tells everyone to be on guard because the trash beast can attack them from any direction. But as they enter the building, they find it empty aside from a person at the other end. The merchant says that it is the spherite and begins pushing Rudo towards them, and the other cleaners also get pushed along. Once they reach close enough, Rudo realizes that it is not a person but a doll dressed like a spherite. But it is too late as the merchant jumps backwards, telling them to hurry up. The next moment, the ground under Rudo's feet turns into mud, and the entire group falls down to the lower floor. They wonder what just happened, and the merchant asks them if they are alright. They tell her that they are fine and ask what is this place and where is the spherite. The merchant laughs creepily and points at Rudo, saying that he is the spherite before suddenly turning into mud and melting. Just then, they hear two voices calling out to the spherite giver, and then a pair of purple lights start approaching them from the darkness. Zanka understands everything now, especially because of the purple electric lights. He knows that the people who set them up are called the Raiders, and they don't even bother to hide that they plan to steal Rudo from the cleaners. Rudo is confused about these new group of weirdos, and Gris tells him that they are bandits of this world. But what makes them dangerous is the fact that they are all givers as well. He immediately commands his team to find an escape route, while he and Folo are going to protect Rudo. He asks Zanka to handle the two raiders on his own, and though reluctant, he knows there is no other option. The supporters run in the opposite direction with that, and Gris tells Rudo to follow them. Rudo says that he could deal with a bunch of bandits himself, but Gris warns him not to underestimate the raiders, especially when they don't know about their abilities. On the other hand, Zanka taunts the raiders, saying that he always knew they would come after Rudo, but he never thought they would sniff him out so soon. He asks if they plan to sell him, because a living spherite could get them enough money to retire in luxury. The raiders laugh, saying that they don't plan to sell Rudo. Instead, they are really curious about the sphere, and talking to a spherite is the best source of knowledge. They want to know a lot of things, especially how he crossed the barrier without dying. Zanka is also curious about the barrier thing now, but he decides to deal with the raiders quickly. He says that since they set up this whole thing, he doesn't need to worry about a trash beast. The female raider replies that he still has to worry about the mud dolls she can create at will, and Zanka says that he can deal with weak opponents like these with his eyes closed. He suddenly activates his staff and begins destroying the mud dolls, but the male raider hides among the dummies and attacks him from behind. Zanka is barely able to react to his attack in time and gets slammed into a pillar. The man once again retreats inside a mud doll, and the female raider tells Zanka that because cleaners only fight with trash beasts, they have no idea how to deal with humans. She tells him that this will be the last game of Find the Real One he will ever play in his life, and he gets ready to fight with everything he has. He keeps taking down the mud dolls, but the male raider is able to land consequent hits on his back. Zanka is cornered now, and as he tries to dash towards the female raider to defeat her, his feet slip in the mud puddle she had created in advance. She tells him that he is the only combatant in the group who can fight against her, and once he is down, the rest of the group will be defenseless. She says that he will be defeated soon, but then Zanka suddenly yells at her, telling her to start a podcast if she wants to yap so much. He says that earlier, he thought she was controlling the mud puppets using her shovel, and the guy was using his vital instrument to deal damage. However, after watching the battle for a bit, he has realized that his first assumption was wrong. He says that the man is just punching him, and his vital instrument seems to be his snowshoes that let him walk easily on stable ground. He says that now it makes sense why he can move so easily even though the ground is covered with mud, and he taunts the two raiders, calling them a match made in heaven. This suddenly triggers the woman, and she tells him to shut up, which obviously he does not. He says that he might not have experience of fighting people, but he knows his vital instrument much better than them. He says that is why he can do things they cannot, and the girl suddenly attacks him. Zanka hits his staff hard on the ground, letting a sonic wave run through the entire place. He can feel the changes in the vibrations as the sound wave passes through the mud dolls, and when it hits the one where the male raider is hiding, he immediately spots him. He then charges at full speed towards him, knocking him out with one hit before hitting the female raider too. As she loses consciousness, her mud dolls fall apart instantly, and Zanka says that they were just a bunch of noobs. However, the leader of the raiders suddenly appears behind him, saying that he should fight someone stronger if he is not satisfied. On the other hand, Rudo and others are still running as they try to find the exit. Rudo grows concerned because he can no longer hear the sounds of a fight, when he suddenly bumps into Gris, who has found an exit. He sends some of the supporters upstairs so that they can contact the headquarters and call for support. After that, he decides to return and check up on Zanka, when suddenly, he hears someone running towards them. Gris thinks that it is Zanka who finished his fight, but to his surprise, the leader of the raiders comes there. Everyone is confused, and then the raider begins staring at Rudo and matching his features with the description he got from the bandit that he kidnapped earlier. He suddenly jumps to the wall behind Rudo and clings to it like Spider-Man, saying that he has finally found the giver from the sphere. Just as Gris and others realize that the man in front of them is a raider, he crushes the wall with his claws, blocking the exit. The raider starts aura farming, and Gris tells him that if he harms Rudo, he will become an enemy of all the cleaners. He then asks him about Zanka, but the raider starts talking about how he got late in reaching here because he has got a terrible sense of direction. By the time he got here, the other guys were defeated, and he didn't like that because that was a waste of everyone's time. He then walks towards Rudo, completely ignoring Gris and his questions about Zanka. He tells Rudo that there is someone who really wants to talk to him, so he should come with the raiders for now. Rudo is on high alert when the raider suddenly grabs his mask and pulls it away, telling him that he doesn't need it because there are no trash beasts around. Rudo asks him what happened to the cleaner with the staff, and the raider says that he had a bad attitude, so he dealt with him. However, since he was strong, he didn't kill him and just knocked him out, but he might not enjoy the poison that much. The raider then uses his ability to awaken the power of his rings, turning them into metallic claws. He tells Rudo to come with him peacefully and no one will get hurt, but just then, Gris and Folo attack him. The raider easily dodges their attack and then does a handstand kick to send them flying away. He senses that Folo has the potential to become a giver, but Gris doesn't have anything like that, so he is not needed. Gris, however, gets up and tells the raider that he will protect his team at all costs, no matter who he has to fight. The raider realizes that he is a supporter and tells him that weaklings like him have no worth and they can't protect anything. Rudo gets worried about Gris and tells him to fall back because the fight will be too dangerous for him, but Gris doesn't reply. Instead, it is the raider who tells Rudo that his weak and useless friend is already dead. His claws have pierced Gris's heart, and he pushes them even deeper until they come out of the other hand. Rudo can only stare at the sight in horror as Gris's lucky charm goes flying, and his mind goes completely blank. The scene feels awfully similar to Ricto's death to him, and Rudo instinctively reaches for the pendant that triggers the memories of his childhood. One day, Ricto found him banging his head on the wall, and he immediately came to stop him. He asked Rudo what the hell he was doing, and he blankly replied that Ricto had told him to stop hurting others, but he had never said a thing about not hurting himself. Ricto grew even more concerned at this because he thought that Rudo had become calmer after the pain in his hands was subdued. He asked him the reason behind his agitation and Rudo replied that there was none. He only had an unexplainable anger inside him whose cause he did not know, but Ricto knew what was up. He realized that Rudo felt that his parents abandoned him, which created a feeling of worthlessness in his heart, and that gave birth to this anger. Ricto told him that he needs a purpose in life to get over that feeling, or at least things that he likes. So he patched Rudo up and took him to experience different things, from books to games to cooking, but nothing really caught his attention that much. However, just as Ricto was about to call it a day, Rudo saw a man throwing out garbage, and his curiosity woke up. He opened the gate that led to the main city and took out a mask from the garbage bag. Ricto followed him out of concern, but then Rudo suddenly started crying because he could relate to the garbage. Ricto asked him how does he feel right now, and Rudo told him that this mask is just a little broken and it should not be thrown out. He cried that it was unfair to throw it away when it still had so much life, and he wanted to fix it. Ricto realized that this was more than the projection of Rudo's issues, and he could truly see the worth of the things that others threw away. Back to the present, the pendant turns into a vital instrument in Rudo's hands, and the raider is shocked by that. Gris, who is somehow still alive, realizes the truth about Rudo's powers now. He says that Rudo doesn't turn things into vital instruments, but he brings out their unused potential to life. With that, Rudo awakens the potential of the pendant, turning it into a creepy sentient weapon. The raider is truly amazed by that, and he starts drooling as he asks Rudo what does his vital instrument do. On the other hand, Folo puts Gris in a more comfortable position, but he is still in a very critical state. Rudo thanks Gris for showing him the path out of his depression, and tells him that without his help, he would still be stuck. However, now he knows what he should do, and he will start by kicking the raider's ass and proving that he was wrong about everything he just said. The raider likes his attitude and finally introduces himself as Jabber, saying that he likes nothing more than determined fighters and strong givers. He then attacks Rudo, and the two of them engage in a serious battle. On the other hand, Gris is still bleeding out and Folo is worried about him. However, Gris assures him that he will be alright. He then starts thinking about Rudo and says that he could not use his powers properly the last time because there were a lot of emotions that were clouding his true purpose. But this time, they don't have to worry about that. Meanwhile, Rudo is completely on the defensive, forcing Jabber to attack him and retreat when he can't find any opening. He tries to taunt Rudo into attacking him, but he simply asks him to attack him if he dares. Jabber tells him to be a bit more cheerful and enjoy the fight as he charges at him again, but Rudo just dodges his attack. Jabber attacks him again, and this time too, Rudo just dodges effortlessly. Jabber soon realizes that his attacks can't even hit Rudo, who explains that it is because of Gris's pendant. Gris prayed to the talisman that everyone should return safe from their missions, and that means it is a vital instrument that focuses on defense. Jabber gets that it increases the guaranteed dodge rate, but he tells Rudo that he can't fight back with this vital instrument. Rudo tells him that there is no need for that, confusing the raider. He explains that he has dodged everything without even moving from his place, and it is Jabber who keeps on moving around, so he can predict where he is going to move next. Jabber doesn't really care about his yapping, and he lunges at Rudo again. However, this time, Rudo uses another ability of his weapon that changes Jabber's trajectory by a little bit, but that is enough to completely throw him out of the loop. Rudo says that he can't use the talisman to attack, but he can use his fists, and then rocks Jabber's world with a strong punch to his face. Jabber turns out to be a pain enjoyer, and he is glad that Rudo finally attacked him. He complains that it is unfair that the game is rigged against him, but Rudo doesn't feel any guilt in using his vital instrument to pummel him after disturbing his balance. Jabber decides to change his strategy and attacks Rudo from behind, but the talisman still breaks his momentum and gives Rudo the chance to land a devastating blow to his gut. Jabber changes his fight pattern once again after that, damaging the surroundings to create a dust cloud that blocks Rudo's vision instead. Rudo is on high alert now, and then suddenly, a stone brick comes flying at him. He dodges it thanks to the talisman's power, but then Jabber cuts a pillar and sends more bricks towards him. Rudo dodges all of them, and just then, Jabber attacks him from his blind spot. Luckily, the talisman is ready for that, and it disturbs his movement again, letting Rudo smash him to the ground. Jabber gets back and decides to unleash his full speed, but even that is not enough to beat Rudo, who has unlocked Ultra Instinct thanks to the talisman, and he can beat Jabber whenever he gets close to him. He completely beats the out of him and forces him to use a wall to support his body, but Jabber starts laughing because he has not received this high-quality beating in a long time. He then tells Rudo that it is a good thing that he got to enjoy attacking him, because he will not be able to do it any longer. By now, Jabber has figured out that the talisman detects any attacks with hostile intent and moves them out of Rudo's way, keeping him safe. But when he sent the rubble towards him through the smoke, he found that the talisman doesn't react to that at all. Rudo doesn't get why is he yapping about that all of a sudden, and then Jabber tells him that his right claw has a powerful neurotoxin. He suddenly stabs himself with his claw, and Rudo gets even more confused about his motives. Jabber tells him that he will now lose consciousness and then rampage randomly, and he is sure that Rudo's talisman won't count that as hostile intent. He asks him to dodge that and then gradually falls asleep. Rudo can only watch him with disgust and shock, but then Jabber suddenly wakes up, and true to his words, he starts attacking indiscriminately. Jabber goes into berserk mode as he gets up while still being unconscious and lets out an eardrum-shattering howl. Rudo can only watch him in shock as Jabber suddenly dashes towards him while spinning rapidly and destroying everything in his path. Rudo somehow dodges the attack, and he can't understand how Jabber can be so strong even in this state. Suddenly, he notices that Folo and Gris are not too far away from their location, and if Jabber turns towards them, they both will die. So Rudo runs in the opposite direction to lure Jabber, and his gamble works. The berserk Jabber attacks him, and Rudo tries to use the talisman's power to stop him. However, that doesn't happen as he planned, and he has to block the attack himself before throwing the berserker away with a judo move. Despite breaking the concrete floor with his head, Jabber is still as blood-crazed as before, and Rudo thinks that battlefield experience and determination can make people do the unthinkable. However, an alternative idea suddenly springs in his mind, and he thinks that Jabber might be a masochist. He remembers the time when he used to get beat up by bullies on the sphere, but he didn't fight back because Ricto told him not to. The boys asked him if he was a masochist, but he didn't know what it meant that time, so he went back home and asked Ricto about it. Now that he knows that masochists are psychos who get off on pain, he thinks that if Jabber really is one of them, he doesn't know how to stop him. Anyway, Jabber charges at him with mindless fury, and Rudo can only try to dodge his attacks. He keeps running backwards as he attempts to block and evade the attacks, but Jabber is too strong for him. He manages to get past his defenses, but just as his claws are about to slash him, Zanka's staff comes flying there and pins him to the ground. Rudo recognizes the staff, and just then, Zanka comes there, struggling to stand upright, but determined to get even with the bastard who left their fight without even defeating him fully. Rudo asks him if he is even in the condition to fight, but Zanka tells him not to underestimate him. He then notices the vital instrument that Rudo is using and remarks that he finally seems to have gotten the hang of it. Rudo replies that it is not helping at all right because it can't block Jabber's attacks in his mindless state. Zanka understands the vital instrument reacts only to hostile intent, and Rudo is surprised that he already figured it out. Zanka tells him that while he was struggling to come here, he saw him fight from a distance and decided to figure out his fighting style because that would help in teaching him later. Zanka says that since Rudo can't fight with his vital instrument, and he can't move so well because of the poison, they don't have a way to defeat Jabber. However, he has an idea, and he asks Rudo to let him attack him just once. Rudo is shocked at that suggestion, but Zanka explains that since he can't move well, Rudo's vital instrument might detect his hostile intent and move him to the place where he wants to be. That way, he can reach Jabber and defeat him because Rudo doesn't have the option to attack him anyway. Rudo asks what happens if his vital instrument isn't triggered, and Zanka tells him to man up and take the hit in that case. Just then, Jabber wakes up and both of them get ready to face him. He charges at them, slashing the pillar they were standing near, but both of them make it out safely. Zanka tells Rudo to let the claws even graze him because that will quickly paralyze him. He is pissed at that and decides to attack Rudo to vent out his frustration. Luckily, the talisman works exactly like he thought, and it moves him straight towards Jabber, letting him hit the bastard away. Zanka is impressed by this, but Rudo is furious at him. Since the talisman deflected the attack, it means Zanka attacked him with hostile intent, but he claims that it was just a little test. He then walks back to Rudo, saying that they can work with this team. He positions himself to strike him again, and at the same time, Jabber gets back up. He dashes towards them, and then Zanka attacks Rudo, whose ability hurls him ahead instead. He once again gets close to Jabber and lands a devastating hit. Zanka is surprised that the talisman can be controlled so well by Rudo, and he can send him considerably far. He then attacks him again, and Rudo sends him towards Jabber one more time. Thanks to Rudo's control, Zanka hits him with a lethal combo that knocks him back to his senses. As Jabber sees Zanka in front of him, he gets a little excited, but the next thing he feels is Zanka's staff landing on his head, knocking him out for good this time. As Zanka lands on his feet after that, he stumbles to the ground. He thinks that they have won the fight, and Rudo also relaxes a bit, causing the talisman to deactivate. It suddenly turns to dust and crumbles like Thanos just snapped it out of existence, and Rudo panics. He tries to save the talisman since it belongs to Gris, but he can't do anything except watching it fly away. He starts having a panic attack, and Zonka wonders if the talisman got destroyed because of Rudo's ability or if there is something else at play here. Rudo, however, blames himself, and he suddenly has a mental breakdown that turns physical as he falls to the ground, writhing like a fish taken out of water. Zanka sees the claw marks on his back and realizes that he got struck by Jabber without either of them knowing. Just then, he notices Jabber poking himself with his left claw, and he suddenly stands back up, completely fresh. He looks around and says that he must have done a great job while he was out cold, and then heads towards Rudo. Zanka asks him to stop, asking how the hell can he move despite taking so much damage, and Jabber stops to monologue about his abilities. He says that his left claw has a powerful painkiller that takes away his pain and he can function normally again. He then says that his right claw's poison will probably work on Zanka for 30 minutes, so he decides to give him another dose to make sure he doesn't get in his way. Zanka is helpless as Jabber stabs him, leaving him struggling on the ground. He then heads over to Rudo, who is still spasming, and picks him up to take him to their base. Zanka can't even yell at him to stop this time, and he can only watch Rudo being taken away silently. Meanwhile, Jabber is glad that he completed his mission, and he doesn't even care about his two teammates that are lying knocked out in the building. Rudo is still conscious even though he can't move, and he blames himself for putting everyone's life in danger. Just then, Jabber leaps out of the hole in the floor that his teammate made, but instead of being inside a building, he finds that he is outside. He thinks that it shouldn't be possible because he clearly remembered the map. But just then, he sees Rio there, waiting for him. Injin is with her too, and Jabber finds that out when he gets hit in the guts with his umbrella and hits a wall with tremendous force. He somehow stays awake despite that and notices that Injin has other scary-looking cleaners with him. Turns out, the supporters who escaped earlier called for backup, and Injin and others were close enough to respond in time. One supporter is worried that Gris and others might be dead, but Injin assures her that they are strong and won't die so easily. He asks her to take a team and rescue them, and in the meantime Jabber begins screaming that they look really strong and he is in no condition to fight them. Just the thought of how helpless he is turns him on, and Injin is shocked to learn that Rudo has been fighting this freak masochist this entire time. Rio remarks that he looks better than she expected, and the other cleaners pity him, saying that he looks a lot worse than they thought. The big guy gets angry and says that it is unforgivable that someone tried to harm one of their teammates, but the other guy tells him to shut up because he is annoying. After that, Injin tells Jabber that they are going to take him into custody and interrogate him. He asks him if he really thought that he could mess with the cleaners and then crawl back to whatever hole he came from. Jabber gets even more excited on hearing this and asks if they are going to lock him away in a prison for life where he has to come up with a plan to break free by himself. He gets up, saying that he knows he is going to lose, but he has got orders to bring back Rudo, and he is not going to return to his face as a failure even if he dies in the process. He awakens his weapons again, but just as he is about to charge ahead, someone hugs him from behind and tells him to stop. Jabber recognizes the lowly as one of his teammates and tells her to leave him alone because he still has a mission to complete. She tells him that the time is up, and they can't do anything because the cleaners are here. Jabber is still adamant about finishing his mission, so the girl tells him that the boss had a very big smile on his face. Jabber suddenly stops at this, and the girl tightens her grip around him to keep him in check. Ultimately, he decides to listen to her and return home, and as he steps aside, the mystical manhole portal in the wall behind him becomes visible. Jabber tells everyone that he has to leave now, and asks them to give Rudo his regards because he must be knocked out due to his poison right now. However, Rudo is still in his senses, and he uses all his strength to get up and tell Jabber to stop because their fight is not over yet. Jabber is impressed by his tenacity, and Rudo tells him that he will pay him back for what he did to Gris and others. Jabber is happy to hear that and says that they will fight another time, but then he notices his gloves and the unique design on them. He excitedly remarks that their boss would be happy to learn that Rudo has got something from the special series too, and then enters the portal after the lowly. As soon as he puts the manhole cover on, the portal disappears and everyone is surprised. Later, Zanka and others are rescued from the building, and the poison wears off from Rudo's body too. He immediately rushes to Gris and finds that he is still alive despite severe blood loss. Rudo apologizes to him for wrecking his talisman, and Gris says that he really cared about it. Rudo is about to drown in guilt, but then Gris says that if his talisman helped him, it was really for the best. With that, the final bits of the talisman fly away too, and Rudo is not sure how he feels at the moment.